You're listening to the Sports Brothers podcast by Sam and Brian Dostal. Everything sports, all the time.
Let it go, can't hold it back anymore. Let it go, turn away and slam the door. I don't care.
Hello and welcome to another edition of the Sports Brothers podcast on this beautiful first day of August. And it is August 1st, 2014, and it is 10:11 a.m. Eastern Time. And Sam, now that the calendar has shifted over to August, you can now officially say that you're moving to North Carolina this month, and I'll be going back to school this month.
Guess it's a big month, huh?
I guess so.
And we also found out Charlie Sheen coming back 2.5 men.
Yep.
August 2014. Not really, but that's what he was on an archived interview on the Dan Patrick Show. So we're not starting any rumors here.
Not that, but yeah. And also, it's a big month because it's Lois's birthday.
It is Lois. Talked to her on the phone yesterday.
Did you? I need to call her today.
I was had a little time after my poor round of golf yesterday, and I was hanging out and gave her a call.
Well, that's nice. All right, so...
It was.
It's always nice talking to Will. All right, so on tap
Oh,
for
we
today. On tap for today, it's nothing but MLB trade deadline talk. Certainly, if not the most active and most blockbuster-worthy day of trades yesterday. Certainly, I mean, everyone knows David Price, John Lester, they're on the move. We're going to break down probably 7-8 trades or something like that I got here, so it should be a fun show, Sam.
And also of note, I was going to say this to you before we jumped on the air, or whatever this is called. Disappointing now that the trade deadline is moved on, it's going to be pretty much all football.
Yeah, that is true.
It was a glorious 4 or 5 days when the main focus was baseball talk, even though it included the Red Sox trading away John Lester. It's always fun to talk baseball.
Well, actually, yesterday, I mean, ESPN, they had the trade deadline special, and it was like 4:05 or something like that, and that's when they signed off, and they switched to NFL Live. So that's disappointing. I mean, they just shifted over to ESPN News. So since I was at Mike Cosentini's house, like, who watched it there? We ended up watching MLB Network anyways. But, you know, for us, when we don't have ESPN News, so we've been stuck with NFL Live for a year, which we wouldn't have watched.
No.
Anyway, so let's get right
Did
to
you
it.
watch the Nesson one at all?
A little bit. But,
The big move had already been done earlier today.
yeah, exactly.
I still remember when Manny was traded in 2008. We were watching in the basement, right?
Yep.
And 4 o'clock came and went, and they're like, well, it looks like Manny Ramirez isn't traded, and we were pumped,
Mm-hmm.
beyond pumped. And then when that news broke 10 minutes later that they had completed the trade with the Dodgers right before the deadline, devastating.
It was.
I still say they would have won that World Series in 2008 if they had Manny Ramirez. Nothing against Jason Bay. He did a nice job for the Red Sox, but it wasn't Manny Ramirez.
All right, so now to the 2014 trades. David Price, he leads the headlines in a 3-team trade with the Rays, the Tigers, and the Seattle Mariners. The Tigers, of course, they acquired the left-hander, and the Rays get Drew Smyly, Nick Franklin, and Willie Adames, a single-A shortstop and third baseman who's only 18 years old, and there's a lot of high praise for the young man. And the Mariners, I think, I mean, they got Austin Jackson in this deal. Everyone's talking about David Price and how that's affecting them. We'll get to that in a little bit. But Austin Jackson, I mean, Sam, essentially, they traded Nick Franklin, who is young, 23 years old. He's a career .216 hitter in major leagues in 119 games played. He is hitting .294 in AAA this year. But they get Austin Jackson, a guy who is now in the centerpiece of two big-time trades when he went over to the Tigers from the Yankees trade. But how about this? He goes to Seattle, a power bat for the Mariners.
Yeah, .273 batting average. Not much of a power bat, Brian. Just 4 home runs this year. But certainly a guy who gives you speed. He can bat in a few different spots in the lineup. You saw him bat anywhere from the leadoff spot down to the 5-6 spot for the Tigers. Does a pretty good job getting on base at .332. OBP this year, .342 career on base percentage. Strikes out a little too much, 85 strikeouts already on the season for Austin Jackson. And then you look at his defense and defensively. Good center fielder, has that speed, has the ability to go track down the long fly ball, has a pretty good arm out in the outfield. And in a big ballpark like Seattle's, he's going to be a nice fit for them. And this Seattle team, they're putting together some very nice pieces, you know.
Robinson Cano, obviously, Felix Hernandez. I mean, we've talked about them in our past shows. And thank you. So, but what the big thing with Austin Jackson is he's reuniting with his hitting coach, Lloyd McClendon, who is now the manager for the Seattle Mariners, and he was the hitting coach for the Detroit Tigers. McClendon was for a couple seasons, and Jackson had his best MLB season in 2012 when he hit 316 home runs and 66 RBIs. He will be a free agent in 2016. But now let's talk about David Price. There was so much talk, really, I mean, from the past last year or so. We traded maybe in the off-season last year, but he's finally moved. He's moved to the Tigers. It was rumors to be the Dodgers. I thought he was going to Los Angeles.
The Dodgers had a lot of guys, a lot of prospects that they could give up, but they didn't want to move away from the prospects.
Yeah, but certainly David Price to Detroit. I mean, it came a few hours after John Lester was traded to Oakland, so it was really kind of a counteract. And, I mean, you look at the starting rotation for the Detroit Tigers. They got Max Scherzer, Cy Young Award winner last year. They got David Price, the 2013 Cy Young Award, or the 2012 Cy Young Award winner, and then Justin Verlander, the 2011 Cy Young Award winner, 1, 2, 3.
Justin Verlander, the last couple years, hasn't been the Justin Verlander that we've grown accustomed to, for sure. This year, he's 9-9 on the season. His ERA it's 4.79, so he's not throwing all that well this year. That's the highest ERA of his career, with the exception of 2008, where he struggled to an 11-17, 4.84 ERA. So he hasn't been as good as in past years, but he still has the ability to go shut down teams. But with David Price coming aboard, I think you have an ace to your staff. He's the ace. It doesn't matter that Justin Verlander's been there since 2005, pitched in the World Series, pitched in a couple different ALCSs. It doesn't matter that Max Scherzer has been there for some time now. Was a big piece of their ALCS run last year. None of that matters. David Price walks in the door today to that Detroit clubhouse, and he's their number one. He's the guy getting the ball in Game 1 of the ALDS, and I think you're right. I think it's a counter. It definitely is a counter move to Oakland. Do you think they would have made that move if, say, John Lester went to the Los Angeles Dodgers or some team in the National League? I don't think so.
Potentially not, because again, I was thinking it was going to be the Dodgers. St. Louis was in the run for John Lester. Never really.
Milwaukee, Pittsburgh.
Of the 9 teams,
Baltimore.
that were listed,
You never heard of.
you never heard Detroit.
Detroit, yeah.
And also with the fact that Lester was traded so early in the morning, it was actually 3:30 a.m. Eastern time. It was announced around 9:30, 10 o'clock. That gave Detroit time, a lot of time to acquire David Price. If Lester was traded at 3 o'clock to the A's, this deal probably wouldn't have happened because it would have been such a quick turnaround. But he is in Detroit, and wow, I mean, what a pitching staff for the Tigers.
And what makes it interesting is both teams, the Tigers and Oakland, traded away Major League ready outfielders. I know we're going to get the Lester deal a little bit, but they both traded everyday outfielders for their teams. Yoenis Cespedes for Oakland, and as we talked about, Austin Jackson for Seattle. Just want to go back to Austin Jackson really quickly, and him going to Seattle. He's been a guy who already this season he's played in 100 games, Brian. Not one outfielder for Seattle has played 100 games yet this season. The outfielder with the most games played this year is Dustin Ackley with 98 games. He's batting just .253 this season with a .301 on-base percentage. Next closest to him as far as playing time, playing 79 games for Seattle this year, is James Jones. So this is an outfield that certainly can use a bit of a boost.
Yeah, and if you have a guy out there every night, that certainly helps it. And he does bring a veteran presence a little bit to that locker room. for the Mariners. All right, so John Lester was shipped off to Oakland, the Bay Area. Hurts Red Sox Nation, but it did happen. He goes along with Johnny Gomes as he reunites with the A's. It's going to be his second stint. He was on the team in 2012. But as you mentioned, Sam, the Red Sox, they get Yoenis Cespedes and a second-round competitive draft pick. Now, the thing with Cespedes is you look at his batting average, it's not that high at all, 256, 262 career. But he does have 17 home runs and 67 RBIs, which I'm not sure, Sam, if you can look it up. That 67 RBIs is probably would be second or maybe even first for the Red Sox. I think Ortiz leads the team in RBIs, so if you can look that up. But Cespedes is now going to a hitter's ballpark, a hitter-friendly ballpark. You know, I really think he's going to abuse that green monster. I really do. Some fly balls that could have been outs in Oakland, which is a pitcher's friendly park, could turn into doubles, even home runs for Cespedes.
Yeah, it is a good park for Cespedes and David Ortiz. 77 RBIs this year. The next closest, you want to take a guess?
Brock Holt.
Dustin Pedroia with 38.
30. So you said 77.
Yeah. And then you got Mike Napoli. Missed some time, but he still played 85 games, just 36 runs batted in for third on the team. Johnny Gomes was actually fourth with 52. AJ Krzyzewski's still fifth with 31. Wow, this is rough to look at.
When you hear those numbers, so he's second on the team right now in RBIs, but
yeah, and that's what the Red Sox did a nice job adding some pieces yesterday. Cespedes. I don't think straight up Cespedes, because essentially it was straight up for John Lester. You got the draft pick, but for the most part it was Cespedes for Lester. They're not in the same category player wise, but the Red Sox do boost that offense, and they're now banking on the fact that they'll be able to go out and get frontline pitching in the offseason. That's their hope. Obviously, Lester has talked about how he wanted to stay with the Red Sox and how he would even consider re-signing as a free agent after the season. And you had retweeted it. Jason Stark said that the Red Sox.
That's what I'm holding my hope on.
I'm not gonna say it word for word, but essentially Jason Starks was saying the Red Sox aren't going to trade him being John Lester, to a team where
he can build
a relationship and want to sign long term, because everybody knows Oakland, Billy Beane, small ball, money ball, small ball. They don't like to spend the big bucks, and John Lester is going to demand the big bucks. And they historically have shown they don't have the market or the want to spend that kind of money, so that eliminates at least one team. You would think that the Red Sox would have to compete with when it comes to signing John Lester in the offseason.
And back to Cespedes, he is going to be a free agent after the 2015 season. Kind of feel bad for the guy. He goes from a pennant race. I mean, he signed with the A's when he first came to America, and now he's
two-time defending home run champion. And I guess some executives listening to the radio about all the trade talks yesterday, some executives in the Oakland organization were saying they were getting frustrated with his lack of discipline at the plate, and sometimes, I guess, lackadaisical base running they said he had sometimes. So we'll see, but he's got a cannon for an arm, he hits for power, he drives in runs, he's a guy that can slot in the middle of that order. He'll probably bat fourth right behind David Ortiz, which pushes Mike Napoli into the fifth spot, and already that's stretching the batting order more than it has been this season.
Okay, so now to another Oakland A's trade. Tommy Malone was traded. The young left-hander was traded to the Minnesota Twins for outfield Sam Fuld. Malone, he has pitched well this year. He's 27 years old. He was sent down to AAA Rochester despite going 6-3 with 3.55 ERA. He was sent down after the Samardzija. I was going to get to that. It's even in the notes.
My bad.
Yeah.
Stealing your thunder.
Yeah, you really were. Did. So as you mentioned, Sam, he asked for a trade once Hamill and Samardzija were acquired from the Cubs, and now he's off to Minnesota. Sam Fuld comes in. He's only hitting .263, 2 home runs, 21 RBIs. This is where I think Moneyball does come into play here a little bit. You got Gomes now and Sam Fuld trying to replace the one person with Cespedes.
Yeah, well, you got Sam Fuld, the lefty, so he'll you would assume that the plan is to have him play against the righties, and Johnny Gomes, a great hitter against left-handed pitching, bats from the right side. So the thought would be to have them bat against left-handed pitching. That's what the A's do. They love to platoon. They got 3 different guys that they run out there at the catcher position. It's just what they do. They like to have guys put in situations where they're very comfortable and have a higher chance of succeeding, and that's what's made them so successful. So we'll see how those two work out. Sam Foley, remember, broke onto the scene a few years back. Kind of a Brock Holt
Yeah,
break onto the
with the
scene type
Rays.
thing with the Rays, where he was just hitting everything. Since then, he's become an average, maybe a little below average Major League Baseball player, but still bouncing around. Was actually in New Britain for a few games this year, playing for the Double-A affiliate of the Minnesota Twins.
The Rockets.
Playing. I said he played in New Britain, playing for the Double-A affiliate of the Minnesota
Oh,
Twins.
I thought you were forgetting the name, the Rockets.
No.
Oh, okay.
Just figured for all people listening around the world, they might not know where the Rockets
Oh,
are.
okay. Okay. All right.
But so yeah, that's exactly what their attempt is to get a platoon out of Gomes and Fold, and have John Lester added to just fantastic pitching staff. I mean, John Lester, Sonny Gray, Jeff
Kazmir.
Samardzija, and Scott Kazmir. That's your top 4 right there. And it's going to be very, very tough to score many runs off of them.
Okay, so now my question to you, Sam, is we talked about Price being dealt to the Tigers. We talked about Lester being acquired by the Oakland A's. Who be more disappointed? Who'd be more disappointing if they did not win the World Series, the A's or the Tigers?
I think it's got to be the Tigers. They got the higher budget. They've been there, right on the doorstep the last couple seasons. They were in the World Series in 2012 when they lost to San Francisco. They were right there this past year when they lost to the Red Sox in 6 games in the ALCS. They add David Price. They still got Miguel Cabrera. They still got Victor Martinez, Torrey Hunter. A very good offensive team to now combine with this pitching staff. I think if they don't make it this year, they're going to start to get that label of not being able to get over the hump.
I would agree, and I want to give credit to the Dan Patrick Show McLovin. That was his poll question today. A very good poll question at that. And I do agree. They have been knocking on the door for a few years now. But how about this? A potential, say in the ALCS, it could be the third straight year in a row where it's the Tigers and the A's. They played in the ALDS in the first 2 years, but in both series they went to Game 5.
If you like pitching, that's a series to watch.
Yeah. Okay, so now John Lackey. He was traded to the St. Louis Cardinals for starting pitcher Joe Kelly and outfielder / first baseman Alan Craig. Lackey, he was on pace to have his best season in Beantown, 11-7, 3.60 ERA. He will honor his contract next season, which is worth $500,000, but he has not discussed an extension. And Sam, I think this was a good trade for the Red Sox. I like what they got in return. Joe Kelly, a young pitcher, he's only pitched in 7 games this year because he sustained a left hamstring injury. But if he's a free agent after this year. If they can sign him for a 3-4 year deal, I think this is a good trade for the Red Sox.
Yeah, that's the thing. They have to re-sign Joe Kelly to make this deal worth it. Lackey was... just to talk about Lackey briefly, it's amazing the trajectory his time in Boston took, because his first year, what was his first year? 2011 was his first year, right?
Yeah, I think so.
2011 when, it was an absolute mess of a year. It might have been 2010. It was 2010.
Yeah, 2010.
2010 was his first year, and he didn't pitch that great. He really struggled. 2011 wasn't that much better. And he was in the doghouse with Red Sox fans. He was absolutely in the doghouse. No one wanted to see him on the mound. He wasn't a likable person through the media. He was a big part of the 2011 collapse and the Bear and Chicken incident. So he was just absolutely down in the dumps to Red Sox fans. He missed 2012 with injuries, Tommy John surgery. Came back in 2013 and just had a fantastic year. Lost weight. Was a more I don't know that he was a more likable person all season long, and that he was a postseason hero for them, pitching brilliantly in Game 6 of the World Series. And this year, it's the same thing. Everybody, no one had any issues with John Lackey this year, and it's just amazing to see how the
Perception.
perception of him changed. He's a guy now. When he comes back to Boston, he'll get a standing ovation, which is something 2 years ago you would never have imagined happening to John Lackey. But that being said, I do like the pieces the Red Sox got. If they could re-sign Joe Kelly, it's excellent because Kelly, although struggling this year, last year had a sub-3 ERA, just 26 years old. And then Craig, I'm not so. I wonder if Craig could be a guy used to make another trade down the line because he's kind of taken a big dip in production this year, as you hit on already.
Yeah, and last season though he was in MVP talk.
Yeah,
He was hitting the ball well. That's
we don't have the stat up, but his batting average with runners in scoring position last year was through the roof.
Yeah. So, but how about this? Red Sox at Cardinals starting Tuesday through Thursday series. On Tuesday, the very first game, Joe Kelly versus John Lackey pitching matchup.
Seems to always happen that way, doesn't it?
It always does.
I'm interested to see how the Red Sox can figure this lineup though, because Cespedes plays left field. Has played left field for Oakland. Alan Craig, he's an outfielder, but that's a big right field for a guy like Alan Craig to play. He's not going to play first base because you got Mike Napoli there. He's not going to DH, obviously. You got David Ortiz there. Cespedes, I don't think he's a center fielder, so you can't put Craig in left. Maybe you put Cespedes in right? I don't know.
I think honestly, your smart decision is to put Cespedes in right field because then again, it's bigger than left field. So and he has such a good arm. And I think the wall would help Craig's mobility. It would kind of hide it a little bit because you don't have to run as far and whatnot. So
I think it'll be interesting to see. And we mentioned the lengthening of the Boston lineup. Craig not having the season he's had the last few years, but still a guy that you can now plug in there behind Mike Napoli. Obviously, we don't know what the Red Sox are going to do with it, but you got Pedroia in the 2-hole, David Ortiz batting third, Cespedes fourth, Napoli fifth, and now Craig in the sixth spot. Just all speculation here, and that's all. That's obviously what the goal for the Red Sox was to bolster their Major League Baseball lineup, get some guys who can drive in runs. And we were talking earlier. Remember who's second on the Red Sox in RBIs? Alan Craig would be second. Well, Cespedes with the 67, Craig would be third with 44.
Yeah. So, there you go. All right, and a couple more Red Sox trades talked about. Andrew Miller, he was traded to their divisional foe, the Baltimore Orioles, for left-handed prospect Eduardo Rodriguez. And Rodriguez numbers decent in Double-A battle, 3-7, 4.79 ERA, and 82 in the third inning.
Decent kind.
And Andrew Miller, 3-5 with a 2.34 ERA with 69 strikeouts and 42 in the third innings pitched. So the Orioles, Buck Showalter, a huge guy with matchups and going against left-handed batters with Miller being a left-handed pitcher. This is a value asset, Sam, I believe, for the Orioles.
Oh, it's huge, and Miller is he's had a very good season. He's really been very good for the Red Sox since moving to that bullpen. Felt bad for him. That freak injury last year, wasn't able to pitch from June
or so.
June on. So
he celebrated an out, and he twisted his ankle.
Yeah, it was something. He just rolled over that ankle. I think it was in Los Angeles.
And that was at home.
Was it at home? All right, well, whatever. A very good lefty. He's gotten he's figured out how to repeat his delivery so he throws strikes, and he's a guy that he's accustomed to pitching in high leverage situations. He can get lefties or righties out, and he's going to be a huge part out of that Baltimore bullpen. He's a workhorse too. He made 50 appearances somewhere in that area for the Red Sox this season, so he's a guy who you can run out there back-to-back nights if need be.
Okay, so now Stephen Drew, the defensive shortstop, was traded to the New York Yankees. The first trade between the hated rivals, the Red Sox and the Yankees, since 1997, when it was a 4-player deal, and I never heard the players, so it wasn't really worth it. Drew, of course, certainly not known for his offense, only batting 176 this year in 39 games played for the Red Sox, but he is known for his defense, and he will play second base for the Yankees. The Yankees just recently, as of yesterday, they designated an assignment to Brian Roberts, and the Yankees will be taking on the last of his $5 million contracts for Drew, that is. And I think it's a good trade for the Yankees.
It is a very good trade, and Andrew Miller did throw 150 games, and his splits between lefty and righties very similar. Batting average against for lefties 150 and righties 180. I think it is a good move. Brian Roberts was starting to wear down a bit. Listening to Joe Girardi on the pregame show Wednesday night, it seemed like no one said anything about a trade for Brian Roberts on that pregame show, but the way Girardi was talking about him, he said, we're going to give him a few nights off, let him rest his body, let him recharge. With the day off on Thursday, he can hopefully get back in there on Friday. But it seemed like there was a little, we're not completely satisfied with Brian Roberts at second base type thing. So, with that said, I think it's a good move. Stephen Drew not hitting all that well, but excellent defensively, and it'll definitely bolster the middle of that infield. A guy with more range than Roberts. Roberts has been struggling on the defensive side of the ball, and he's never been the same player since he had started having those concussion problems a few years back, and that really took away some of the prime years of his career. He did a pretty good job for the Yankees, but Drew's going to be good in that second base spot.
So with the Yankees coming to Boston starting tonight, Drew, assuming he makes the start at second base, what do you think? How do you think the Red Sox fans will receive? I think he's going to hear boos personally, but I think he should get cheered.
No, we won't hear many boos. It won't be like a Nomar Garciaparra return or Pedro Martinez return.
Kevin Youkilis.
Or Kevin Youkilis return. It'll be a warm applause. It'll be a nice applause. Drew didn't really have to go anywhere, did he?
No.
I mean,
just switch dugouts.
Switch dugouts.
But I forget what I was going to say now. All right. But the Red Sox. They get Kelly Johnson in return. Not too crazy about that. I'd like to see maybe a pitching prospect in return, something like that. I don't see.
But it's one of those things. He's a good utility player. You can use him off the bench. They don't really have an infielder off the bench right now.
Well, Middlebrooks is going to be coming up soon. That's what I'm hearing.
He's coming up today.
So I think he's going to be playing third base today. So then they'll move Bogarts over to short, thank God. So, I mean, there's your left side of the infield. Pedroia at second, obviously Napoli at first.
And I think Johnson's going to be a utility. The Red Sox said they wanted to get Major League Baseball players back. Guys who have experience at the MLB level back, for the most part, in these trades, and they did that. That's what they did.
And what I was going to say was, say Stephen Drew strikes out in his first at-bat, or just gets out in general, that's when you'll probably hear a sarcastic applause from Red Sox Nation. I bet there will be. All right, Martin Prado, I think this is a very good pickup for the New York Yankees. The third baseman for the Arizona Diamondbacks. They traded to the New York Yankees for catching prospect Peter O'Brien and a player to be named later along with cash. Prado hitting .270 this year, 5 home runs, 42 RBIs. I think this is a huge improvement from Kelly Johnson.
Yeah, I've always liked the way Martin Prado plays the game. Good defensively, can play a few different positions in the infield, and he's going to be a nice fit. And I think the Yankees, I think of all these teams that we're talking about, I think they did a nice job.
Yeah.
As far as making trades that are going to help them. Obviously, that's the goal when making these trades. But I like the trades that have been made, and Prado's another one I like.
Now, this trade I think is questionable. Jared Cozart, the young pitcher from the Astros, was traded to the Miami Marlins along with Enrique Hernandez, an outfielder, for a single-A third baseman Colin Moran and Major League outfielder.
Former Cape Cod Leaguer Colin Moran.
Really?
I believe he played for the Yarmouth Giants. Okay. Either him, them, or Wareham. Maybe try. I'm going to stop there.
Yeah, Bruce can say every team except for Brewster. All right, so now the Houston locker room is not really pleased about this trade at all. Jose Altuve, he came out and said, I want to win games, and this trade doesn't help. And Cozart, he is 24 years old, so he is young. He's 97 with 4.41 ERA. This kid does have the stuff to be an ace of the staff, really the future, if not already, but, a well-known ace. And they ship him off to Miami for a single A third baseman and so far average major league outfielder.
Yeah, the Astros, they certainly have a plan, and there was a big article in Sports Illustrated about their plan and stuff, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm puzzled by this trade.
This is an interesting move because they didn't get any young pitching back. They didn't sign the #1 overall pick of the draft, which was a left-handed pitcher out of high school. So I don't know what their game plan is here. And he played for the Bourne Braves, so I was off with all my guesses.
What a boy. And Cozart, he goes to the Marlins. Thinking on the Marlins side standpoint, when Jose Fernandez comes back next year, it's a good 1-2 punch.
Another young pitcher, yeah.
Yep. Emilio Bonifacio was traded from the Chicago Cubs to the Atlanta Braves, and he's going along with his teammate, left-handed reliever James Russell. And in return, the Cubs will get highly touted Class A catcher Victor Carantina. And Bonifacio, 279, 2 home runs, 18 RBIs. Could be a good leadoff hitter. Could be a guy that could be a pinch runner in some situations, defensive replacement. Russell, 3.51 ERA in 33 innings, 33 and a third innings pitched. I think this is a good move for the Atlanta Braves.
Yeah, without a doubt. This is one of those moves where it's an under-the-wire move, kind of like the Darwin Barney move we were talking about the other day with Barney going to the Dodgers from the Cubs. This is a move for the Atlanta Braves, a team that's right in the thick of things, division-wise and also wild-card-wise. A move that will allow Atlanta to have some depth. They add some depth, which is what they want to do. They get a lefty out of the bullpen in James Russell, who against lefties this year. Let's see, where is it against lefties? Well, I guess against lefties, Russell not too good, but.
You're assuming he was going to...
I was assuming that he's actually better against righties. He has a 295 against when he's facing lefties versus a 103 against righties. So what? All right.
Okay.
But he's a good reliever out of the bullpen, and he's going to certainly add another arm to what is a good Atlanta bullpen.
Yeah. And some other Cub trade notice: Felix Doubront, Red Sox left-hander, going to Chicago. Theo Epstein gets a guy that he loved when he was in Boston, so you'll see him in the rotation for the Cubs probably as soon as his next start. So Doubront, he voiced it saying that he wanted to be a starter wherever he went, and it looks like he'll have a chance to start in Chicago.
Yeah, for sure. I think, and Doubront, people forget, was a huge part of the
I know.
bullpen in that World Series. Pitched some key innings, especially in that game. What game did Buchholz start? 4? In that game 4, when the Red Sox were down 2-1, Buchholz got them through 4 innings, and then Doubront was able to come in and pitch scoreless baseball and bridge that gap in the back end of that Red Sox bullpen. So Red Sox fans might have forgot that a little bit, but it just wasn't going the way that it should this year, and I think for both sides, a change in scenery was needed.
Washington Nationals, they acquired shortstop Jubal Cabrera from the Cleveland Indians in exchange for shortstop Zach Walters. Cabrera, he's a 2-time All-Star. He's only in 246 this year, 9 home runs, 40 RBIs. But it sounds like he's going to be filling in for the third baseman, Ryan Zimmerman, as he sits out for potentially the rest of the season, Sam. He has suffered a grade 3 right hamstring injury while he's trying to beat out a ball on July 22nd against Colorado.
And Cabrera's a guy who flashes a good glove. He has a good glove. Hasn't played, I don't know how much third base at the major league level, but I know it hasn't been much, if any. But when you got a glove like his, you got an arm like his, you'll be able to transition to third base. There's some nuances that he'll have to fine-tune, but I think he's going to be a good fit in Washington. Obviously, doesn't bring the same offensive prowess that a guy like Ryan Zimmerman brings to the team, but Cabrera is going to be a guy who is going to allow you not to lose all that much, both defensively and offensively. And they're going to stay a competitor with obviously with Cabrera.
Okay, so now to the winners and losers of the trade deadline. Just real quick, the winners, the Oakland A's obviously getting John Lester, Detroit Tigers getting getting David Price. Seattle Mariners, they got Austin Jackson. Forgot to mention they did get Chris Northey as well from the San Diego Padres. He is only hitting .242 this season, and he has played in 89 games. So there, with your outfielders, Sam, now you have potentially two guys that can be stables in the outfield for Seattle. Losers, Philadelphia Phillies. They had so many guys. They had Marlon Byrd. They had Cole Hamels, Jimmy Rollins. Ryan Howard, Chase Utley. They had to move Cliff Lee. Yeah, I
think you said Cole Hamels.
Cliff Lee. He's going to DL again, 15-day DL. But they had to trade somebody. I've been saying this for probably 2 or 3 years now, and
they're nostalgic. They're holding on to
exactly.
They have Papelbon.
Papelbon, yeah, that's another guy. They're holding on. Especially Rollins. Rollins, Howard, Carlos Ruiz, Utley. Those guys are also there from 2008 when they won the World Series.
Utley's really the only one that's still producing at a high level, and that's after last year really struggling. These are all guys that other teams can use that'll pay a high price for to try to get themselves over the hump, and you can get some very nice pieces back in return. I'm not sure what the Phillies are waiting for, but it's time to blow that thing up and try to rebuild. They have to. Because they're aging. All these guys that we listed are well into their 30s.
And I thought Marlon Byrd. He was on the Mets last year. He got traded to the Pirates. He was on a playoff team last year. It seems like he could have that similar role this year, but they just couldn't get a deal done.
Don't forget, though, the trade deadline may have passed, but there's also
the waiver
deadline. And just look back a few years ago, the move the Red Sox made at the waiver deadline with the Dodgers. So, although the trade deadline is come and gone, still a chance for moves to be made.
The Pittsburgh Pirates, they're in the playoff hunt. Didn't do anything. They were rumored for John Lester.
Didn't say A.J. Burnett either.
A.J. Burnett, yep, okay, another one. So I thought the Pirates kind of missed out. And the Toronto Blue Jays. This is a year where in Toronto fan base saying, you kind of have to make the playoffs this year. So, you got the talent. And I thought they should have made some moves, maybe get another hitter in that lineup or something, or a reliever in the back end of that bullpen. I thought they should have made some moves, but they couldn't get anything done. Neil Kotz, the left-hander from Chicago.
He's been on Chicago. I'm not sure who he's on this year.
He was a left-hander that people thought he'd be moved. John Danks, another guy, thought he'd be moved. Those were a couple guys.
Texas right now.
Texas, okay. So, maybe
Alex Rios, a guy.
Yep, Alex Rios didn't get moved. So those were a couple guys. There were a couple teams, I should say, that didn't make any moves in yesterday's trade deadline. And lastly, this isn't trade deadline talk, but this is just Clayton Kershaw talk. I'm a big fan of Clayton Kershaw. Watched the last inning of his complete game yesterday.
He really stunk that last inning.
Yeah, I know. Gave a run. 9 innings, 1 earned, 9 hits, 9 strikeouts, and a 2-1 victory. He threw 112 pitches. I think that was the inning where he threw the most out of any inning. This season, if you haven't been paying attention, but he's 13-2, 1.71 ERA, and 121 in the third innings pitched. And he's the first Dodger since Orel Hershiser in 1985 to win 10 straight decisions. During this streak, Sam, during his last 10 decisions, he's got a .94 ERA.
Just unbelievable. Obviously, just unbelievable. Pitching has been the story of the year, really, the last 2 years. But what he's doing is just unreal. Obviously, Adam Wainwright is having a fantastic year as well, ERA-wise, but you've got a lot of faith in Clayton Kershaw. I don't know how much more there is to say about it. It's just unreal what he's doing.
It certainly is. All right, now it's time for Stump the Bro.
It's time to Stump the Bro.
All right, it is 6-4, and with let's see, the Monday the Monday after we get back from the Cape, which I should mention, that'll be our last show until Sam goes on to North Carolina. So this is a big one, Sam. You can only tie, you can't win. So if I get this, I clinch. So my question to you is, what team was the first to lose 3 consecutive NBA Finals? The Detroit Pistons, the New York Knicks, or the Atlanta Hawks?
Consecutive years.
In consecutive years. I figured you were going to know this, actually.
Detroit, Atlanta, and who was the other team?
The Knickerbockers.
Atlanta?
Nope.
Detroit.
Nope. Knicks. They lost in 1951, 52, 53. I thought you would know that.
Why? I don't know.
I just...
All right, here we go. We're going to go a little college football for you.
Okay.
Preseason polls came out yesterday. Who was the last AP poll preseason number 1 to win the national championship? 2004 USC, 2012 Alabama, or 2008 Florida?
In 2004, USC was Texas. So you said to win the national championship?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Alabama, right? Yeah. USC Texas was 2004, right?
I'm not giving you any. You got to work through this on your own.
And then you said Florida 2000.
Florida 2008 or Alabama 2012?
Alabama 2012.
USC.
It is USC.
2004.
I
That
should have.
game was 2005.
I should have gone by instinct because as soon as I don't know why I did this. I really don't because as soon as you said the question before you even gave me an answer, I said USC 2004.
Tough break, bro.
But then
Tough break, bro.
Yeah.
Even though you already won.
all right, so it is 6-5 now. Sam, you can
No,
only
it's
tie.
not 6-5.
Yeah, it is.
I didn't get mine right.
Oh right. Oh yeah, I won! Woo!
That's the genius that I lost for everybody.
All right. Well, we're gonna be taking a week off vacation.
Cape Cod!
Going to the Cape. Playing some mini golf. By the way, shot a 44 yesterday. My mini golf game. I got 7 on combined the first 2 holes. If I didn't.
But Cape Escape is my course.
Okay.
It is my course.
All right.
7 hole-in-ones or something like that when we played.
Okay. Well,
Maybe not 7, like 4. I don't know.
so we're going to Cape Escape. We're looking forward to that. Going
That's the
to
only thing we're looking for.
Yeah.
That's what we're doing for a week straight.
every day.
We're going to be members for a week.
We're gonna go kayaking. We're gonna go some real golfing.
By the way, I'm putting this on the record. Mom is going to flip. We're not going to do anything to her. We're not going to touch her, but I think she's going to flip that kayak.
So, someone could videotape that. That would be so
Flip
priceless.
what?
I don't know.
I'm guaranteeing that she flips. Do you think so?
I was the one that said it first.
I think she flips.
She doesn't have. She'll tip.
Let's put it this way. We got our athletic genes from one person in this household.
And it's
And
not
it's
mine.
not her. And we did pretty well with those athletic genes. Brian Dostler, actually, we should mention. Big headline article for Brian Dostler.
Yeah, in the Observer.
You'd think he was the best player to ever go through Plainville baseball.
Actually, I mentioned that to Jim Tufts yesterday at the pizza party. And he just said it was the class of the player, not necessarily he didn't say the talent. But, so, yeah. All right, well, that concludes our show today. Thank you for listening to the Sports Brothers podcast. You can listen to our past shows, current shows off our Twitter page at Sport Brothers, or you can listen to them off our website, thesportsbrothersblog.wordpress.com. Thank you for listening to today's podcast. We hope you learned a lot. Have a wonderful day, everybody.